What is up, y'all? I hope you're doing well. We are here for our midweek reading where we're going to take a look into our soul lessons for the week. We pull from the Wild Unknown Alchemy deck and we clarify with some tarot cards, which helps us go deeper into the process. So on Sunday nights, we do our oracle forecast for the week and it gives us our energetic weather. On Monday, we do our anchor message, which gives us our assignments and lessons that we're going to be dealing with in soul school for the week. And then Wednesday brings us to our reading where we go deeper into the process of what's really being asked of us as far as our the way that we're showing up in this lesson. Sorry, I'm just reaching for my water. Pardon me. I was out on the patio tonight at work and it was hot, so I'm really thirsty. So let's just dive right in. So we've been talking about this year being the year where we kind of have this reset button restart. And it's like the whole past of our former life is almost like a timeline that we jumped off of into a new timeline. And this new timeline, we get to start from here as this new sort of more awakened, elevated, up-leveled, conscious person. And so we can rebuild our life. We can build a new life. We can overcome lifelong struggles and patterns right now with a lot of extra universal help going on. And so a lot of the groundwork to clear the way and set ourselves up with some stability and security to do this with happened last year in 2022. So for many, though, there were some last minute joiners, right? Because the more of us that are awakening, it's like the 100th monkey syndrome. It's like it starts to awaken other people. And so there may have been some people who have been sort of in this battle with their status quo, and maybe they just started to shake loose from that and awaken from that in the spring. So in the winter, we had a lot of deep diving with Pisces. I think Neptune was retrograde, and there were a lot of deep dives, with Pisces themes coming up. We were purging all of these old emotional wounds and patterns, and sort of everything that was left that wasn't authentic to us was really shaken loose during the eclipse season in the spring. So it took a couple of weeks after that for things to really settle down and start leveling out. And even now, there's still dust settling. There's still effects from all of that are in the atmosphere that are kind of dissipating. So once we kind of shifted in, we got our new cycle started, and it's taken a little bit to launch because the metaphor has been we're like a rocket on the launch pad, and mission control is for the rest of the year has been slowly initiating us in these different themes, every other week or so. It's every couple of weeks, every 3 weeks, it's we're dealing with these themes that are addressing these different parts of ourselves and how we would have normally showed up versus how we're showing up now. And so we're being presented with these similar lessons so that we have the opportunity to see, okay, this is where my default setting is tempted to go. Now I need to observe myself, pause, and reflect, okay, who is this new person that I want to be now? And how do I want to show up in the world? And how am I choosing with my free will and my sovereignty how I want to act, how I want to show up, how I want to move forward? And so we're doing that consciously now from our free will, or we're trying to. So, we can't just launch into space. It's we have to, mission control is turning on our operating systems, and they build upon one another. And so we're not quite all systems go yet, or we just now have become, or we're getting there. So I feel like the last new moon that we had really set us off. That the Cancer new moon was sort of like, okay, and like launch, like this is it, go, all systems go. And so now it's like we are launching into our new life, into this new beginning, into the embodiment of the new self, but we have to push through the atmosphere. The launch into space takes the most force, it takes the most momentum, it takes the most G-force, because we're leaving the gravitational pull of the Earth's surface. So in regards to us in the metaphor, we are pushing through the gravitational pull of the ego to keep us lower in these lower realms of density, tethered down to our, animalistic human consciousness. And we're transcending above that so that we can be not only fully human and embrace that animalistic part of ourself, but be able to control it and master it and not have it master us. We embrace it, but we transcend it, right? We accept it, we accept those needs, but we're not desperately trying to meet them. We're doing it consciously, and we're following our divine guidance and path. And we're not just throwing, spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. We're not reacting in scarcity, fear, temptation, FOMO, or whatever, we're trying to be more sovereign and self-mastered. And so part of this is like we're pushing through this resistance, and it's feeling frustrating because it's like we want everything to just pop off and like go well, and we want to feel the success, but that's not the case, because we're at the beginning again. We're beginners again in this new level. And so even though we want to be experts because we just came from having mastered and come to the top of that current level of our life, now that we've up leveled, we're at the bottom again, the bottom rung of our new life. And so this is about, we're starting from here, base camp 1 of this leg of the journey, right? And we're building from there, we're growing from here. So Saturn, we can't get away from Saturn. Saturn is showing up to see, like, okay, there's a lot of stuff that we want to rush forward and we want to have the benefits of it all, but we need to practice restriction. We need to have discipline. We need to be grounded and rational and realistic. We need to be devoted and committed to our goals and to what we want to build and what we want for ourselves. And we need to have the discipline and the follow through and the devotion to show up consistently. Saturn is about building structures, having discipline, following through, having the endurance to go long term and sustain. But yeah, Saturn is that father of the universe. So, or of the zodiac. So it's like, it's very wise. It's very grounded. It's very practical, Saturn. Very smart and shrewd, business minded. But Saturn requires us to put in the effort. Now we've got Saturn paired with the Hierophant. Let's go through them all real quick. So we have Saturn showing up. We have contra naturam, or against nature. And we have resina, or resin. So these two cards together, the restriction of Saturn and going against nature, immediately I felt like it has to do with the Kabbalistic concept of restriction. This is restricting the desire to receive for the self alone, but instead receiving for the sake of sharing. Restriction is also about going against your easiest nature in order to transcend. So if it's in your nature to be more of like a lazy person who's kind of lax and half-assed about things and sloppy, you're being asked to go against your nature, practice restriction, and have discipline. Be detail-oriented. go the extra mile, put extra effort in. Maybe that's where you need to correct, is you need to put more effort in and go against your nature to be lazy. Say your nature is to bury yourself in work to avoid any kind of emotional work that needs to be done, or spiritual transformation. Maybe you're a workaholic, or maybe you overwork to validate yourself. Maybe you're a perfectionist because you think that you're inadequate. So going against your nature would maybe be to take a step back. Don't be such a workaholic. Don't take on all the work for everybody else. Let them do their share. Going against your nature, or restricting the desire of the flesh for instant gratification. That is also a practice of restriction. So instead of short circuiting and taking what feels good in the short term, it's about restricting and practicing self-control so that you can instead have the long-term value. For instance, taking it slow in the beginning of a relationship. That is restricting the desire for instant gratification for the sake of long-term value. That is an example. Let's see, what is another example of that? Don't fill up on junk food before you have dinner because you want to save your appetite for the high value meal. If something is bad timing, right? If it's a business decision, or planting crops, or relationship issues, or even career attempts. Sometimes if you're not in the right season, then it doesn't matter if all the other elements are right. You can't rush something. So that it might be, that right now there's something that we want to rush forward, that we want to work out, and that was coming up either earlier in the week or maybe last week, but it's just not going to rush forward right now. And so we can't force that, right? So we have to allow that, but we can't also deny, or repress. There's a real difference between restriction and repression. So restriction is acknowledging the truth, acknowledging, and accepting the now and the truth of the situation, but not letting that, it's like accepting the truth of the situation so that you can meet it. It's like Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now. He talks about like the pain body grows when we keep feeding the pain body, when we keep choosing pain. And when we choose pain by resisting the now, resisting the present moment. And so many times in the present moment, the first thing that has to happen is just accepting the moment that you're in. Stop fighting against it, right? Stop pushing against nature. Part of this card talks about sometimes nature is messy and we can't fight nature. Sometimes it needs to be wet and it needs to be soggy and it needs to be muddy and it needs to be dirty. Sometimes nature is dry. Sometimes the winds blow and we're in tornado season and there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to accept the circumstances and figure out how to best thrive within them, right? So there's something about, I'm gonna show you what the tarot cards that came out with it. So with Saturn, we've got the Hierophant. With contra nature, or against nature, we have the King of Cups. Under resin, we have the Ace of Cups. And then the final card to sum it up is Judgment. So before I go any further, there is a Hebrew holiday today called Tisha B'Av. Basically, it's the 9th of Vav, which is the 9th of this month. And what that means is today, Kabbalistically speaking, every day of the year has this different resonance or energy to it. And some of the days are like super positive, some are negative, some are more positive than others, but the energy is different on different days. This particular day of the year is said to be the most negative day of the year. It's also said to be the year that the Messiah will be born. And so what that means is that from a Kabbalistic point of view, when there is the most pain, when there is the most darkness, when there is the most discomfort, those are the opportunities for the healing to happen, for the cleansing, for the transformation to happen. And so even though this day may have been very challenging, and so the day I'm talking about right now, I've slipped what today's date is, but today is Wednesday. We're around the 20-something, maybe the 23rd, I don't know. And so right now, today, the negativity of today, you may have been dealing with emotional issues. You may have been healing something that's been just stirring under the surface for a long time. You may have been challenged by wounds that are waiting to heal. You may have been frustrated today or faced with something that stokes your hostility. And so basically the gift in today was that if we could get through it and try to choose the light, try to choose to practice restriction, and try to go against our nature to be reactive and to short circuit, then that opens up the possibility for miracles and transcendence and very rapid and intense spiritual elevation and awakening. And so I did not know about that being today until after I saw this reading. And when I put those together, I was like, oh my God, that's today's reading. Because the judgment call at the end of all of this is like, judgment is about having come through all of this experience and this cycle of learning and healing and growth. It's like you see everything more clearly and you've gained all this wisdom, and now it's like there's been like almost like this is death and rebirth. This is like hitting the reboot. This is like rebooting your computer. Stop and restart it. Unplug it and plug it back in, kind of thing. Like if you want to have a rebirth, have a spiritual rebirth, you need to reset yourself, right? So this is the reset button. This might be the reset button in a certain situation in your life, right? This can mean reconciliation between people, or reconciliation in a situation with groups of people or with institutions, with a job or something. So just be aware of that. So Saturn is coming up with the Hierophant. The Hierophant and Saturn both talk about like wisdom and exchanging wisdom and learning, and going into the depths of something, but also long-term, something that's solid for a long time. The Hierophant, it talks about, it's like the Pope, right? These long-standing institutions, things that have sustainability, right? This can sometimes talk about being committed and following through with a situation for the long haul. It can be a sign that like a business is going to really take off and like have staying power, or a relationship could take off and have long-term potential. Or if you are, say, going to get a job or something, that it's going to be a really stable and secure situation that'll be ongoing. And so I feel like Saturn is telling us, like, we have the potential to build something of lasting value here, but it's really going to take our discipline, and it's going to take our devotion and our commitment to it. And that is from a seed level of a mindset level too. Because with this day, with this teshuvah, or the tissue bob. I can't remember. I just read the thing. I just read it, the word, and I was like, just remember how to say it. It's like the second we realize that we're being tested, or the second we really believe in the light, and we have certainty that our situation is going to be just fine, that even though it looks bleak, whatever it is, it'll work out for the highest good. And so the second we really believe, we open the door up for that miracle to come. That certainty, that trust, that surrender, it like relaxes our vibration and lets the situation open up. It lets that channel of divine cosmic flow open up. And also the fact that like divine, if God and the Holy Spirit and angels are trying to move and work in your life, and you're holding on with it like with a death grip to your own will, and you're like getting in the way, like you could be getting in the way of your own miracle because of your short-sightedness. You don't see down the road. That's why we have to trust at some degree the Creator is filling in the gaps for us. Like we show up, we do our best, we do what we can, but at the same time we have to sort of surrender and let go of the illusion that we have any control anyway. We do our best, but we surrender ultimately and give that power over to divine. So we have King of Cups with the against nature. And so I feel that the King of Cups is, look, he's all sunshine on the surface, but there's a lot of hidden depth there. He's got the two fish of Pisces swimming in his subconscious there. And so the King of Cups is often, and this can be either gender, but this is someone who has a lot of deep feelings and is very, very sensitive, very sincere, very true, but they may appear a little bit detached on the surface, or they're not showing all of their feelings. To me, this can also be talking about finding a balance between restriction and repression when it comes to the feelings. It's like we don't want to deny our true feelings about the situation, right? If we're in any given situation, we need to be honest with ourselves and with others and realistic about like how it is that we feel about it. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't practice the restriction of managing those feelings and choosing consciously what we want to do about them rather than being reactive to them, right? We want to be self-mastered. And so we want to be able to cultivate our mindset, and we want to be able to cultivate our emotions. It's like we can't control them, but we can certainly observe them. And, sometimes they can be helpful in showing us what we need to know, what we need to heal, or in which direction we might be feeling called toward. But I don't think that it will help right now to suppress the feelings or the emotions or to deny your true feelings about a situation. What you do want to do, however, is it's like there's something about discipline right now for the sake of the long-term value. So it may be a situation where we have to restrict our desire to receive something, some sort of instant gratification for the sake of the long-term value, right? Without denying ourselves the truth of how we feel, but by also acknowledging that by practicing this restriction, we open ourselves up for something of greater value, right? And it may not be like, no, not at all. It may just be like, not right now. So it's like prematurely launching something before it's quite ready, or before you've built enough buzz, right? If you open up, a shop or a business and you don't do any advertising or marketing or word of mouth or whatever, like no one will know, right? So you just, we have to do things in the right timing and when things are primed and poised for success. So I think everything is going in a positive direction. We have Ace of Cups with resin. There is definitely a new flush of love and inspiration and excitement and creativity coming in, right? But it's like there's something that we care about is being preserved for us right now, but we can't hold on too tight. It's like we have to let go. We have to surrender. We have to take our hands off the situation and let the universe take control. Because the resin card talks about like preserving the beauty of something and protecting it, something that we cherish. But it can also talk about like the shadow side of it, is that in your desire to preserve something, you might be holding something too tightly, right? Or you may be let's just call it holding something too tightly. So we're letting go energetically with the trust and the knowledge that what is meant for us cannot pass us by. When divine, like, plan and timing and order, like when something's divinely ordained, like it doesn't matter. We cannot fuck it up. We can't. And if something's never meant to be for us, there's nothing that we can do to control it to make it better. So it's like things, like we can't force something that's just not meant to be. And something that is meant to be, like, cannot be denied. Simple as that. So what is truly meant for you is preserved, is protected. So you can relax about that. The more you try to force something that is fine, it's like you're telling the universe that there's negativity around it. It's like you're putting a neurotic energy around something that doesn't need to have it. And so just to make everyone feel better, like with Ace of Cups, we have this Judgment card, the reset button, the reconciliation button. So, and with the King of Cups underneath this, it's like we're getting really clear about how we feel and what we want. And the more clarity and certainty we can build around that, the more quickly it can come to us. But we have to let go. That's always the hardest part about manifestation, is when the universe asks us to let go and surrender and practice acceptance. It's the hardest part. It's the scariest part. It's the most uncomfortable. It is the most challenging. It is the most scary. It's the most upsetting. It's the most frustrating. It's the most awful. It's the most torturous. It's the most gruesome. And it drives our patients to their end. But the faster and the deeper we can surrender with certainty in the Creator that what is in the highest good of all is going to play out. And you can keep praying over your situation. Keep that prayer practice up, but accept that ultimately the results are not in your hands. That control is only an illusion. And if you try to hold on to control of the situation, you'll lose control of the situation, right? Because you don't believe. There's no faith in when you're trying to control. It's fear-based. So we're having to let go of that fear. We're having to let go of control, and we're having to take that leap of faith and trust the universe, which is the hardest thing to do. But when we can do that selfless thing, when we can restrict our desire to receive for the self alone, when we can restrict our desire to pacify the flesh with instant gratification or immediately absolving ourselves from discomfort and sitting in it, we're cleansing, we're correcting, we're healing, and we're offloading that negative energy and we're alchemizing it, and it's going on to the side of the positive, right? That's the scales back there. It's like we're moving that negativity over and we're alchemizing it, and it's going to that positive side. So stick with it. Don't push something that's not happening naturally. And then if something is very natural, it's very easy, it's very like, wow, like it's effortless. Don't resist that, right? Take that easy, take it slow. And that might be the thing that's like, you're having to find the balance right now between allowing something, not resisting something that is flowing very naturally, but also having the discipline not to go too fast, not to let it build too much momentum, and not to jump in for that instant gratification and ruin the long-term sustainability, right? And I mean, think about athletic training, or even very physically involving work. You have to pace yourself, right? You'll burn out physically, mentally, emotionally. And so, yeah, I think that this week's reading is all about pacing, and it's about not forcing. It's not forcing in the way that we're not denying, and we're not forcing in the way that we're pushing something that's not working either. So, and then we're taking our hands out of the situation. We're not trying to control the elements, but we are accepting the elements. We're being present with everything, and we're looking at it with eyes wide open, and then we're working with that, right? We're not in denial. So we're starting with authenticity, and we're going and we're keeping with that theme. I'm going insane. I'm losing my ability to speak and think. All right, you guys, it is time for me to call it a night, but we have Saturn, we have against nature, and we have resin. And just remember, this is the most negative day of the year. And so whenever there is the most negativity, that's when there's the opportunity for the most positivity to come from it, and vice versa. So the power in this day is it's very poignant. So hopefully, you were able to overcome your tendencies of reactivity. Maybe you overcame some patterns, or you started chipping away at them. But whatever you did today, even the tiniest little act of change, even the tiniest glimmer of progress counts, and it counts for a lot. So yeah, I hope that everybody turned a corner in a positive direction today, or at least had one moment of victory. It's all it takes. Yeah, and I will see you guys tomorrow for our Thirsty Thursday weekly romance reading. All right, so let's see. We've got Saturn with Hierophant. We had against nature with King of Cups. We had resin with Ace of Cups. All is well. Don't worry. And the Judgment card is everything's getting a reset. Reboot. So yeah, the King of Cups with the Ace of Cups together, with the Judgment card of the renewal, I just believe that Spirit is comforting us and reassuring us about whatever it is that we have our hearts set on right now. That thing is looking for us too, and it's trying to align with us as well. And so, this is like when To Be Magnetic talks about the magic dark, right? And it's when, it seems like something's not coming through, and we're wondering like, why isn't it happening? And there's like been tests happening, and now it's just like it's quiet, and you're like, why? Like what's going on? And that's just testing. It's testing your faith. It's testing your threshold for discomfort, and it's testing your level of faith and trust and your level of self-worth. Yeah, and then they have To Be Magnetic is doing a magnetic self challenge. I think they're keeping it up for another several weeks, but yeah, I don't know. I love to do the workshop challenges with them. I think it's really fun when everyone's doing them as a group. But if you have never heard of To Be Magnetic, I do their work. They have a lot of workshops that help you dive deep into different issues, like the major kind of areas of our lives, like relationships, money, getting in touch with yourself, healing your shadow aspects, getting in touch with your authentic self. And the whole time that you're learning how to manifest, you're also overcoming all of your stuff. It's sort of like a combination of therapy and hypnotherapy and magic. It's like sciencey magic. that also heals your subconscious patterns. And it's not bypassing, it's like actually deep diving and doing the work. A lot of journaling. There are these special like meditative, like hypnotic meditations that help you rewire your neural pathways so that you're literally building like new like structures, new neurological structures that you can rewire your nervous system with. And it's crazy how effective those workshops are. But I even manifested an affiliate program. They didn't used to have one, and I kept saying, because I'm always speaking about them and singing their praises and trying to get everybody to do it, I was like, oh, I'm gonna manifest an affiliate program and I'll be an affiliate for them one day. And now I am, because they started an affiliate program like a couple months ago. So I signed up as an affiliate. So if you are interested in that To Be Magnetic work, you can sign up for their membership, and a link in any of my videos. I have the link to do a month-by-month membership, or you can pay in full for the year. But it's really affordable. It's like $30 a month, but it's so worth it. Like, it's one of the most effective, like, to me, it's way better than therapy. It's deeper, it's more effective, by far, I think. So yeah, that's there if you guys are interested. And if you want to check it out to learn more about it, and you don't know anything about it, to just sign up. They have a podcast, and you can get a really great idea what they're all about. And you can start learning from the podcast. But the podcast is by To Be Magnetic, but the podcast is called Expanded. And then I would say go into their process episodes, where you can hear about how other people have gone through their workshops and what they manifested and what they were able to heal. And then if you are like a skeptic and you need to be convinced, they have episodes that are about the science, and they have their neurological experts and people like that on talking about how all that works. But yeah, if you're interested, you can sign up through my affiliate link below if you don't mind, and I'll get some spare change from that. A pence, enough for a hot bed and a pint and a hot pie for the night. Sometimes I like to pretend like I'm an old English whore. It's fun. I suggest you do it. Okay, cool. Well, I hope y'all have a good night. I hope you are good, but not too good. Ciao.